Coming up, what an excellent day for spontaneous combustion. I have questions. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 31 of The Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Kynan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Chris saying, "God damn it," and moving that thing she bumped into.
And it ends with church bells ringing.
Church bells ringing. But before we go to church, let's head back up to that attic with Chris. So she's looking around, she's searching around, and Kynan, you had mentioned before about how when you're acting, these smaller bits of business are tough, like when you're waiting for something to happen or you're searching for something. And I realized, that really is an odd bit of business to do. Like, okay, I got to be really searching for something. Like, how do I really search for something? But then I got to find it in the spot where the camera can see my face on the moment of discovery. Right?
How do I look at nothing?
Yeah, right. And then find something that I already know is going to be there, right?
Yeah, and especially if it is, so dark.
Yeah.
Right? If that's the point, it's like, I'm looking, but I'm not supposed to be able to see anything. So you're doing that like fourth wall work that a lot of, every acting teacher or style is a little bit different, but all of them in film and theater, right, try to include this fourth wall work where you're looking where there is, the crew guys, and they're doing all their business, but sometimes you might lock eyes with like someone eating a donut, because they're not being used right now, and you have to pretend no, that's something else there. I just was on a movie. I had a small part in a movie shooting here in Vegas, and we were acting directly into camera. Like it's a montage of the main character. She just had her divorce, and she's going on a series of bad dates, and they're going to intercut it all together. And so we the dates were acting directly into camera, completely subjective. That was very different for me. Normally, you try to avoid looking at the lens, or just again fourth walling it, pretending that the lens is something else there, like at the back of the wall.
Yeah. Well. Somehow, Chris is able to do that here as she peers through the darkness of the attic. And again, we're not saying metaphorically dark, guys. It is literally dark. It is hard to see, even for us, the audience. But she turns a corner, and her eye falls naturally on something, and she stops short. We then get a zoom in on a mousetrap that has not sprung. So yes, Carl has in fact put down the traps, and yes, there appear to be no rats, or at least none that prefer cheese.
Those who have evolved past the need for cheese, or those who have evolved past the need for traps.
Right.
The ones who are like, oh, I know what those are.
Yeah. I'm just imagining Captain Howdy is actually up there, and he's laughing to himself after Carl sets the trap. He's like, these fools have no idea what they're up against. And then he sees the traps, and he's like, is that ricotta? And then we cut to downstairs, and everyone's having breakfast, and you hear just like this loud snap, and that's like, fuck!
Yes, he would. I wonder what he would like. Would he like ancient Levantine cheese, or would he like the new modern stuff? That American cheese, that Cheez Whiz. We didn't get that back in Samaria.
We got to get Captain Howdy in here and ask him his opinion on whether or not Cheez Whiz is actual cheese.
Do you know this about? I'm from Hawaii originally.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know this about Spam in Hawaii?
I've heard that it is a little bit more popular over there than here?
It is incredibly popular, and it's something of a delicacy. Nowadays Spam is kind of expensive. It used to be a lot cheaper than it was. But, in the mainland, when it was cheap food, it's sort of the trimmings of ham so it is ham. It is real meat, but it's the trimmings of things that they then force into a mold, right? But in Hawaii, when Hawaiians were discovering Spam, it was something that they could only get from American GIs, and people would come from the mainland, and it was this delicacy. It was rare. So a lot of Hawaiian food, a lot of Hawaiian cuisine has Spam in it as a central focus. So Spam musubi, which is like a musubi, the Japanese style, the rice ball, but it has Spam in it. Spam and eggs is a big thing for breakfast, and it's like it is specifically just because it was so foreign to Hawaii that they use. So on the mainland, it's seen as kind of, trashy food, but in Hawaii, it's like a staple, and even more than a staple, like it's delicious. So I think that's what Captain Howdy would be. He'd be like, we didn't have this back in Samaria, so I like Cheez Whiz. I like the taste of the plastic wraps put on the craft singles That's what I need.
He'll
That's
eat the entire plastic wrap. Yeah.
He's got those teeth, as we'll see later.
Right. Oh my God. No, I love that idea. Okay, firstly, you got me on this whole Captain Howdy thing. Yes. He would absolutely be a gourmet of newer foods that we would look at and be like, Captain Howdy, it's just a Reese's peanut butter cup. And he's like, no, you don't get it. You don't get it.
Don't you see? They made a mistake at the factory and it's all berries. We have to get these. Well, it's a limited time only.
Captain Howdy, you can order those. It's like, no.
No, it's a mistake.
You're just trying to get my berries.
To take advantage of. Oh, yes, the leprechaun won't let me have these charms.
Captain Howdy, that's a mascot. It's like, what's a mascot? Am I a mascot? Well, you could be. Artists, please. But also, to what you were saying about the Spam, I love the history of how staple foods and how these popular foods kind of developed because of some kind of geographical or cultural collision or happenstance or something like that. I love those stories. That's so awesome. But no, in this minute, it's made clear to Chris, even if we already knew, that rats are most definitely not the problem.
Right. Carl knew it.
Carl was right. There are no rats. Yeah. I also want to say, I see what you mean now, Kynan, about the zoom. It really reminds me here that this is a 70s movie. It's funny, we talk about how special effects, practical effects, and even CGI, or especially CGI, can date a film, and just a couple years later, they can look really old compared to what's currently being used. I have a book by Andy Serkis, who you guys probably know. He played Gollum in Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies. And his book is sort of his journal as he learns about and he goes through the process of this brand new method of acting, animation, special effects. We don't know. It's motion capture. But back then it was such a new thing. What do we call this thing?
Right. He wasn't the first, but he's certainly the one who, like the Olivier of motion capture or the Brando of motion capture, the one who made it the thing.
Yes. And yeah, they didn't even know what to categorize it as, but it was called motion capture. And I remember seeing the Gollum in The Two Towers and thinking, well, this is it. This is the pinnacle. You can't get any better than this. And then maybe a year later, you look at it again and you're like, oh, how did I ever think that this was the best they could do? Right. Even looking at the Gollum in The Hobbit versus the Gollum of The Two Towers, it's very different.
I don't go back and look at the Lord of the Rings movies. I think that they're too long. So I haven't gone back and looked at The Two Towers. So you're saying that so whatever that was 10 years afterwards when they redo Gollum, I guess from scratch in the new Hobbit movies, he looks better than he did.
Oh, it worlds better. It is amazing. There's a little bit in when he's trying to guess the riddle that Bilbo poses to him, and just his eye, it's just a close up on his face and his eyes as he's looking around, and he almost gets it, and then he's like, no, that's not it. Oh no, that's not it. And it's just so even now it holds up. It's very, very good. But to that point, then you go back and you look at Two Towers Gollum and you're like, oh, this is I can see the evolution of the technology even here. When the Two Towers was such a celebrated innovation of that kind of technology.
Right. That was the first time that people legitimately were talking about potentially Andy Serkis being nominated for an Oscar for entirely motion capture performance, right? So the only one who has, I think, significantly done motion capture for an Oscar nomination is Brad Pitt in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, but he's not motion capture. Right. Most of the time he is, but he's also appearing, on camera. So that's a question that I think people have gotten over. Is a performance in motion capture really the same thing as a performance? Could it be nominated?
Right.
I think Serkis will win an honorary Oscar at some point. They'll look back, as the Oscars often do, and be like, well, we messed up 20 years ago, 30 years. It's almost 20 years ago now, isn't it? So let's say 30 or 40 years ago. Right. But Brad Pitt, they've talked a little bit about Zoe Saldana for Avatar, but then in animation, I don't know if you know this, there's never been an animated performance, just a pure voiceover performance that's been nominated for an Oscar. But two of them have been nominated for BAFTAs. I wonder if you can guess what they are.
Ooh.
So not Andy Serkis or Zoe Saldana, but two completely voice acting performances. They're both from the 2000s on.
Oh, speaking
They're
of
both like
riddles.
the early 2000s. Yeah, speaking of riddles. I think they're two of people's favorite performances, and they're entirely voice actors.
Okay. You won't kill me if I get this wrong.
No. I didn't even think to quiz you. Like unlike the quiz that you wrote for me specifically a couple minutes ago.
A couple minutes ago being a couple episodes ago.
Right.
God,
yes, a couple episodes ago.
Okay. Animated things that won a BAFTA post.
Oh, yeah, they're nominated for BAFTAs. Yeah, it's in the early 2000s. They're voice performances that are two of people's very favorite performances.
Oh gosh. Is one of them a Pixar film?
One of them is a Pixar film. One of them is not a Pixar film.
Okay. One of them is a Pixar film. Is it from Up?
No, it's earlier than that.
Oh, it's earlier than Up. Damn it. Okay. All right. Is it Finding Nemo?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. All right. We're getting closer. Closer.
Yeah, the second one is from Finding Nemo.
Second one is Finding Nemo. Is it current events? Ooh. Is it Ellen?
Ellen DeGeneres, yeah.
It's Ellen DeGeneres. That's not current. What am I talking about?
BAFTA nomination, yeah. For a completely voiced performance.
Wow. Okay, very good.
And the previous one, not a Pixar.
Okay, not a Pixar. Okay. But it's still animated.
Still animated, entirely voiceover.
It's 100% animated.
Yes.
Okay. 2D or 3D?
3D.
3D. Okay. It's not Pixar.
All these guesses. Yeah.
This is like, if I was Gollum or Bilbo, I would be dead. This is, you know what this is, Kynan? Mm-hmm. This is like when someone stops you on the street for a TikTok and they're like, think of a color, and like all the names of all the colors just like exit your brain.
There's a great one where Billy Eichner, he's running up to people on the street. He says, "Ma'am, it's International Women's Month. Name a woman."
Oh,
like,
yes,
what?
I remember.
What? Name a woman. Name a woman.
Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there. Shrek.
Uh-huh.
What?
Which performance from Shrek?
Are you fucking serious?
Would be the BAFTA nominee. Uh-huh.
Mike Myers?
No, it was Eddie Murphy, actually.
It was Eddie Murphy?
For
Wow.
Shrek, yeah. Two of people's favorite performances. But then it was finally like, only the BAFTAs, only the British Oscars have done that, not the American Oscars.
Wow. What a journey we have gone on, folks. Wow.
Anyways, so we were talking about Zooms, I believe.
Yes, but but like also, Kynan, so you had mentioned Lord of the Rings before. Oh, well, I guess we both mentioned Lord of the Rings. There is a Lord of the Rings minute, folks. And Kynan and I are pretty opposite on this. I do watch the films, and I am currently listening to the Lord of the Rings minute podcast. That is going to keep me occupied. I think for a couple years, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Do they do the extended editions? I mean, some of my friends are like, that's the only ones we'll be watching is the extended edition. I
was just going to say, like, is there any other edition?
That's probably why I don't go back and rewatch them, because you have to spend 4 or 5 hours to watch one movie again.
It's my favorite, because like driving home to Vegas or driving back from Vegas, like after the holidays or with the family and everything, that's a 4-hour, sometimes 5-hour, sometimes depending on when I leave, 8-hour drive.
Right. And
sometimes like I run out of books or podcasts, but like ever since I found this wonderful movie minute family, I'm like, oh goody, I have plenty to listen to. So yeah. So if you're in a long car ride, folks, listen to the Exorcist Minute. That'll yes.
I think they're already doing that.
Yeah, they probably are. Until we stopped talking about the movie and started talking about Shrek and Lord of the Rings and Gollum, and they're
I'll
like,
always talk about Shrek. That's fine.
Yeah, they're like skip. All right. Anyway, okay. So yeah, where the fuck are we?
We're talking about the Zoom.
Yeah. Right. Okay, yeah, but not just for special effects. Although I guess those are the things that are the easiest to notice, right? But I'm also talking about like the methods they use to show and tell us stuff, like this Zoom, Kynan. So you referred to it as mechanical. And up until now, I didn't have a good way to describe how I felt about it. It's not something that our eyes do.
That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, because we can. Yeah, exactly. That it's not something we can't possibly do it.
We can't zoom with our eyes, right?
Right. Focus is another one of those. We can't focus our eyes. Like wherever we look, our eyes focus, but the camera can focus and decide to look at either foreground, middle ground, or background.
Right. And I guess they don't exactly do what a dolly shot does, but that actually feels more like it captures the feeling of what your eyes and mind do when we focus on an object much better than a zoom, like a dolly shot.
Right.
Yeah.
We're used to what it looks like when we walk through a field or when we move sideways across something. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a zoom really does remind me that I'm watching a movie, and even more, I think it reminds me that I'm watching an older movie, like 1970s. And to that point, I actually want to point out how rare that has been in this movie so far. I feel like it's been very judicious with those types of tricks, so as not to date our film too much. You know what I mean? Like you go back and you look at movies that were out around this time, and this one kind of stands out in that way. What do you think?
Yeah, so we have a couple of zooms. So there's a couple in the Father Merrin stuff, especially when it gets really trippy and he's looking at the statue of Pazuzu, where it becomes less grounded in reality. We have some zooms there. And then we have one where we are changing perspectives at the rally that Chris is hosting within the movie.
Right.
We have one that zooms across to Father Karras, and then we have a shot of Father Karras. Yeah. So we sort of switch perspectives. And then we have this one. We do have another one that's hidden, as we said a few minutes ago, a few episodes ago, which is when Chris is pacing on the phone trying to get Howard the father.
Right.
There's a zoom out, but it's pretty subtle, and then it just is enough that eventually it's taken over by a dolly shot that's moving backwards.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I knew that we were moving out, and I just assumed it was dolly shot all the way.
Yeah, the beginning of it is a zoom, and then it's taken over by a dolly. It's hard sometimes to notice the difference. And then I work with film students, or there's people today. You go on your iPhone and you can zoom in and out. You're not quite sure, or at least the device isn't designed to tell you when you are changing lenses on the phone very well. So when you're actually doing a real change, or whether you're just zooming.
Yeah.
And then there's this, it's complicated by the idea of like digital zooms. So I'm going to pull up my iPhone here now. See how does it go? So it changes between two lenses, and there's a zoom, or three lens rather. And then if you go past your longest lens on your iPhone, you're not actually changing the lens. You're just cropping. So you're just taking the image and cropping out the sides like you would do if you were to take the image in your not even Photoshop, just in your basic photo editor, and cropping the sides off and making it bigger. The part
right, with your two fingers just kind of like spreading it out.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's just a digital zoom. That's not actually doing anything but editing the sides off.
Oh.
Yeah. So, with all of that terminology all being described as a zoom, it's understandable that people today have trouble seeing it. But again, like this would be very noticeable, I would imagine, for audiences at the time who aren't used to seeing zooms.
Oh, clever Friedkin. Okay, well, so in any case, we're back to Chris, and she is searching, and we get some more great shots of objects in the foreground, again, hiding her from us as she moves. She completely disappears for a second, along with her little candle flame, and we're like, oh no, all the light is gone. And then we see the candle again, and she finds another trap. And this shot I really like, with this still shot with the light passing over the trap. I really feel like Chris in this moment as I'm trying to see what it is. Like, oh, is it a trap? Yes, it's a trap. Is the cheese still there? Yes, the cheese is still there. I've also seen this effect used when someone is like searching for something and they're not seeing it, like they're missing it as they move the flashlight or the candle over, but we see it. We, the audience, see it. And that sort of like creates that thing of like, we see the danger. Like I'm thinking of Arachnophobia when, like in the end, when Jeff Daniels is in the cellar with that torch, and he's like looking through all the cracks and all the holes, and then you get a close up on the spider's eyes and the reflection of the torchlight as it passes. Like he passes its hiding spot and he doesn't see it. Right?
That's too scary. You got to warn me when you're talking about Arachnophobia.
Oh shoot, sorry. Arachnophobia. Oy, oy, oy. And would you think by putting us in the position of the spider or the monster, well, now we've ruined the jump scare, right? You would think that. But no, the jump scare still works. And that fascinates me too, because you would think it's like, oh, we leave the the main character's point of view, and now we're like with the spider or we're with Captain Howdy, but then the jump scare still happens later and we're still scared by it.
I just heard from someone on a podcast called On the Media, which is a great podcast just about the news typically, but they also deal with publishing and television and everything media. The internet is a good, but they
On the Media.
Yeah, On the Media. It's just a radio show from New York, but it's one of the great podcasts. And they had a guest on who was talking about the different types of jump scare. She had broken up into two different types: one where you are anticipating it, and one where you are not anticipating it. And she said that they're both, not that one's better or the other, but they just have different mechanisms of how they scare us. So one of them has the dread that we go into it. She also was talking about the this other split that she had between terror and horror. Okay. Where terror is your thrill and you're afraid of what's about to happen, and horror is you are dealing with the repercussions of something that's happened.
Ooh, I like
and so
that.
Like fear of the coming, and then fear of what's happened. So it's a little bit tied into that. So the jump scare that we are anticipating is more terror, and the jump scare that comes out of nowhere is more horror.
I really like that. And speaking of jump scares, as we are straining to see, as we've got all our attention on this trap, that's when another crash startles us, and we look. Chris looks, and perhaps it came from deeper in the attic. So we head deeper in. And again, I like the decision to go full POV here, right? That is scary. Now we're moving with Chris. She moves deeper into this seemingly endless attic, and the light from our candle is catching hints of things, but it's less a sense of the space and more a sense of shapes. And we don't know what those shapes are. And some of them look vaguely human. I don't think I'm alone in thinking that mannequins and dress dummies are creepy.
No, you are definitely not alone. No.
Definitely not. No. I think in one episode we talked about the high place effect. Kynan, do you remember that? Yeah.
And the Call of the Void is what I had heard it described.
Right.
On the Media, that podcast that I was talking about, that I was stealing from. Yeah.
Well, there you go. On the Media. Everybody go listen to it. But yeah, when you're in a potentially dangerous situation and your brain kind of like freaks out, but then it like freaks out about freaking out. Like, why are we freaking out? There's no threat here. I think an extension of that would be when we see like vaguely human shapes that we know aren't dangerous, but still there's a part of our brain that's suddenly on alert, like mannequins, dress dummies, dolls, all the Uncanny Valley stuff that looks like a human, but it's just wrong enough for us to notice, like in our reptile brain is like, wait a second, that person doesn't have a head, or that person hasn't moved at all. Something's wrong. I don't know what, but something is wrong.
Well, we have to break that up into two separate things, right? Like, again, the idea, I hope we don't sound like a broken record, but so much of this is now we've talked about something at the beginning of our season. It's just going to be a 132 episode season. How do we talk about it?
I think it is. I think it's going to be like
it's just
all
one season. That's what we call it. A season.
Okay. It's the Exorcist season.
The Exorcist season, right? So near the beginning, I was talking about the idea of the pareidolia, how our brain tries to make sense out of noise within stimulus. So it creates things like audio hallucinations where you're at a crowd and you hear people say, Lester. But no one's shouting Lester, You're just primed to try to listen for your name without even realizing it. And no one's shouting your name. It's just some other piece of noise that you're reading that way.
I have that trouble whenever somebody says mustard.
And that comes out as Lester.
Yeah. Well, that's what I hear. I just hear the STER. And I was like, so I'm like, I don't have a very fun time at McDonald's.
Right. But that's everybody has that with their own name that they hear things. And so it's similar, with visual hallucinations and we don't even like to call them that, right? To say that we're hallucinating because there's such a heavy stigma about that. But, when you see a pile of laundry in your room that you put there, and you saw it in the day and it's a pile of laundry. And then in twilight, when your lights are off, it looks like a creepy scarecrow person staring at you, watching you sleep, right? That's a pareidolia. So animators and filmmakers use that to our advantage. But it's just taking advantage of this really fundamental part of what it is to be an animal, right?
Right.
So we're walking through this attic with her. And we see things that are designed to be human looking. Dummies and mannequins, and then everything else that we see there looks like faces, or we're potentially just trying to make sense out of it.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. And so speaking to that, so we got pareidolia, which we talked about in previous minutes, and then also Uncanny Valley, and Uncanny Valley is something that I am obsessed with.
Welcome to
I
the
think.
Uncanny Valley, everybody.
Yes, Uncanny Valley. And I think it's because I can't pin it down like my other monsters and my other fears, like going back to like spiders. There was a time when I was a kid when I wanted to be an arachnologist, and I caught spiders, and I had all these spider books, and they weren't scary anymore because I had all the information about them. It's like, I know you, I have you like pinned, right?
That's so cool. If I could stop, why did you grow out of being interested in arachnids and spiders? Like,
I still am. I think, you know what it was? Because like this happened around like elementary school, middle school. I think it was just kind of like, peer pressure and needing to fit in. I was the spider kid and it wasn't cool. And so I just kind of like.
That's so dumb. If you had just held out like 5 more years, you would have been the coolest. It's just so weird how stupid kids are.
Yeah, no. Oh, guys. And this is a message to any kid. Actually, I hope no kids are listening to this, but if you are, take this away. Whatever you like, whatever you're passionate about, keep liking that. Okay. Whatever. And anybody who says that like, oh, it's stupid, it's baby, it's blah, or it's weird or whatever, like screw them. Keep liking it, because guess what? Times change. The zeitgeist changes. When I was a kid, comic books weren't cool. You were a nerd if you liked comic books. Now, guess what? Marvel movies are all they show. So
I hope, my boyfriend does listen, so I hope he doesn't take this the wrong way again, but he doesn't know the X-Men, and like everybody else in my life knows the X-Men, so because his comics are cool, everyone loves comics now, and everyone I knew grew up with the X-Men, but he's a little bit older, and then when he was a kid, just he didn't listen, there wasn't the X-Men TV show, there weren't X-Men movies, and he didn't read the comics, so he missed all this. And so I have trouble sometimes when my points of references are like, oh, it's like how if Rogue can't kiss somebody without killing him. And he's like, you have to explain, like, oh God, I have to explain all this again.
Oh, Kynan, I think I'm in very much the same boat as your boyfriend.
You don't know the X-Men.
I know of the X-Men. Okay, who doesn't know of the X-Men?
But you don't know what I mean when I say that Rogue can't kiss anybody.
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I don't mean to make fun of it. It's just like, oh gosh, like I just take for granted that everybody knows this stuff. But,
no, but that's I think we stumbled upon like a really good kind of point here, is that there was a time when I was exposed to that stuff, and like I was learning about Spider-Man and Batman and all of those guys and the X-Men as well, and I just kind of like. In that developmental stage that is happening when kids are growing up, you move away from anything that is not like universally accepted by that age as cool,
right?
And then like fast forward a couple years, and now the X-Men are cool, and Spider-Man is cool, and Batman is cool, but I'm like, oh shoot, I missed the boat. I don't know as much about this as. Now my students, now my students are making fun of me for not knowing about it.
Yeah, that's like I'm trying not to make fun of, but yeah, if you were an arachnologist, you would arachnologist, you would have been the
arachnologist,
coolest person that I know.
Right? Oh my gosh. But like, that was just something that but it came out of, so the point I was trying to make, like it came out of me. Like if I know all about this thing that I'm afraid of, then I can't be afraid of it anymore. Right. It's like a Pokemon. I have all of its stats, right?
Oh man, well that's what I need to do with horror movies, because horror movies scare me too much that I don't. It takes me a while to see new horror movies because they affect me so badly. I think I said this on the Halloween episode, which some of our listeners might have skipped because it was a bonus episode, but. Don't
skip that. It's got full of really good stuff. And it has Andy Nelson of the Marvel Movie Minute. Oh no, he's going to listen to this, us talking about Marvel. Sorry, Andy.
No, he was excited for us to go on the Marvel Marvel Movie Minute because you don't know like what a Thanos is or.
Yes.
But
Kynan, I know enough about Thanos that I know that Thanos is a proper name. It's not a Thanos, okay?
But in the comics, Thanos is, which I did read as a kid as it was coming out, this Infinity Saga when I was a kid, and Thanos is in love with the personification of death, like literally the god Death.
Oh,
and
okay.
You see, there you go. This is interesting, right?
So now it's
he's in love with death, so that's why he wants to kill everyone in the universe to give her souls, and she never gives him any like feedback about whether it's working. So he just keeps like killing and killing and killing and killing.
I see. So it's a one-sided relationship.
It's a one-sided, it's not a healthy relationship. No. But that's different from the Thanos, which is he's an environmentalist. He's an environmental terrorist. Yeah,
I see. So like Thanos is texting death, and he sees the little like received red check mark, and he's like, huh, okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's like, I turned Wolverine's bones into sponge, and he dripped off the side of the earth. and so what do you think about that? And she's just like, okay.
Like, that's great. That's awesome.
Right.
I can't talk right now. I'm out with my friends right now.
But you keep doing you, boo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's catch up sometime. Not right now. Not this week. Not next week. not the week after that.
Right. Don't use the time stone to make next week this week. I won't appreciate that.
Don't do that again.
But anyways, that's really interesting about. So the next thing that scares you is the Uncanny Valley.
And I think it still scares me because we still kind of don't know.
Yeah, it's a completely new science, right? So if you can, do you want to explain what that is for people at home who don't know what that is? Or
see, and I was like,
do you want me to take a stab at it, or?
Well, let's listen to let's hear you.
So let me think. So the Uncanny Valley is this idea that comes from robotics. And the idea is it's measuring people's aversion to robots. And like just even like robots that do tasks. So like an arm that, we use these metaphors about like robots, right? There's a robot arm, even though it's not an arm. So it's a robot arm that lifts metal onto the assembly line at the factory. And if it is some giant clampy unhuman-like thing, it can be really scary to people. It's like, gosh, I'm working right next to this giant, terrible thing. So if we make it look more like an arm and talk about it as an arm, then when we put it on this chart about whether we have an aversion to it, the human acceptance of it goes up, right? So we're like, oh, it's an arm. I get it. It's like my buddy's arm, but it's really a robot, right? It just has like maybe 3 fingers on it. Again, a metaphor of fingers. And then we say, okay, well, the more that we make it look like a human arm, it'll be less threatening. So if we hide the wires and the hydraulics in it, then it'll be less threatening to you on the assembly line. But what if we encase that arm with something that looks like fleshy skin? Now on our chart that had been going up about our human likability of this robot starts to go down.
Yes.
So by making it more human-like, we actually get a dip in our human reaction to it in what they call the Uncanny Valley, according to this chart.
Yes.
And in theory, if we continued going on, we would get out of the Uncanny Valley if, say, now instead of an arm, just a disembodied arm, it is like an Osimo robot, right? And he's a little buddy and he has a little robot face on him.
Yes.
Right. And he's the one now moving the metal onto the arm. Or it looks like Baymax from Big Hero 6. No problems there, even though...
No problems there.
Yeah, it's more human-like than the 3-fingered robot hydraulics with flesh and hair on it.
Right. And I was debating on whether or not to stick this little bit of notes in here or wait until we get to the Reagan dummy later on. But I mean, we've kind of opened up this can of worms. So let's go. So thank you, Kynan, for beautifully explaining that. Yes.
Is that about right? Yeah, I'm not a roboticist, so...
Yeah, I think it was coined by a Japanese roboticist who, like, he had attempted to create a robot of his daughter, and when his daughter saw it, like, she cried because it looked too real. And that's the thing, is that, like, it's basically this feeling of unease when you see something like almost human or almost alive, but like not quite. So think of like dolls, think of ventriloquist dummies, overly like photorealistic cartoons, stuff like that. Like, there's a reason in cartoons that they exaggerate the features. No one has correctly sized facial features. They're always big and cartoony. Like, Mr. Incredible's chin is impossibly big, and we love Mr. Incredible, right? We're not scared of him. And we look at Elmo, who is like different from us as you can be. Like, he is as far away from us as something like human-like can be, but our brain notices the similarities because of that. We're like, oh, Elmo has a nose and 2 eyes. I can relate to Elmo. He's very sweet and cute. But you look at something like a super realistic doll or a ventriloquist dummy like Charlie McCarthy or Jerry Mahoney or Howdy Doody, right?
Howdy Doody. Yeah.
Howdy Doody. And because it's so close to lifelike, because like the eyes and the nose and everything is like correctly proportioned, our brain only picks up on the differences. Like, why does the mouth look like that? Why aren't the eyes moving? We don't even notice that Elmo's eyes don't move because we love Elmo.
Right, yeah. Elmo's eyes don't look like they are supposed to move.
Yes,
And Charlie
right?
McCarthy's eyes and Howdy Doody's eyes look like they should move.
Like they should be moving. And what's wrong with Howdy Doody? Am I going to catch what Howdy Doody has?
Oh God!
Like that's,
I don't want
but it's
whatever
like
Howdy Doody has. Yeah.
right? But like going back to like, because Kynan, you were talking about like it's an animal like primal survival thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we see something that looks human, but looks like maybe it's like dead or it has like some kind of disease, maybe.
Or it's
And our
some
brain,
kind of. I mean, we don't necessarily have this anywhere near on our evolutionary scale, but there are predators who pretend to be your own species, way back. So maybe that's even, totally built in there. I mean, my cats will look at a picture of a cat and they will go towards it and go like, I know this isn't a cat. If you hold up like a magazine with a cat on it, they're like, I know this isn't a cat. I need to investigate this. This is something trying to pretend to be a cat. And the only reason they would do that is because it's trying to eat me and my family.
Yes. And then there's even, oh my God, like now you made me think of like the latest thing on TikTok in like, during the recording of this episode is cats owners putting on cat masks and scaring the shit out of their actual cats.
Oh, those poor kitties. But it's so funny when it happens to other cats. I wouldn't do it to mine.
Right. No, not ours. Right. Yeah. Like I was saying, we don't even notice that Elmo's eyes don't move because we love Elmo. In fact, our brain will often fill in the gaps and give Elmo or Fozzie or Kermit or Gonzo emotions that aren't even there. Like, folks, okay, we're like way off topic, but go onto YouTube and look up Muppet Movie Camera Test. And Jim Henson and his crew, they took Kermit and Fozzie out and they just like improvised a bunch of scenes. And there's this scene where Fozzie and Kermit are up in the tree and Fozzie's like, this is great. A bear in his natural habitat. And Kermit is like, well, you're actually not a real bear. And Fuzzy gives him this look like, what? And the whole improvised scene is just like Kermit trying to explain to Fuzzy that they aren't real. And he keeps on saying things like, you don't have teeth. And he's like, well, no, of course I don't have teeth. And it's like, I love this like meta, like you're not real, but watching. And again, there's nothing to see, but my brain is picking up the gears turning in Fozzie's head as he's listening. I'm not even watching Kermit as he's talking. I'm watching Fozzie as he's reacting. And then my brain is like, reacting what? He's a piece of foam.
Right. There's a couple hands in there.
Yeah. But he's got this look like he's going through this existential crisis. Like, he's like, I don't follow you. Like, what? No. But like, that is what our brain does. It's because Fozzie and Kermit are so different from us that we're like okay with it and we accepted the similarities and we don't care about the differences versus if something were like really close to us, like a dress dummy, to go back into this scene, we notice that it doesn't have a head.
God. Right. And that creeps us out just as much as, there's more scenes later on that are in the dark. So there's other things to look at in the psychology of just darkness. But so, yeah, I think the uncanny valleyness of it here, coupled with the fact that we can't quite see, like maybe we can deal with the dress mannequin in the light when we're used to using it, right, to put on a dress and to tack things onto it. But in the dark, it's a whole other can of worms.
It's a whole other can of worms, right. kind of weird Muppety worms. And then, okay, so we were talking about scares. We were talking about like terror versus horror. And God damn it, Kynan, I knew this fucking thing was coming. Mm-hmm. We're doing this podcast. We're pausing. We're rewinding. We're examining. We're taking notes. We're going through this at a snail's pace. And this next bit still got me. My reptile brain was right. Something was wrong. So like Chris's candle like flares up. There's this big explosion of flame, and she's like, right?
It gets me every time.
Every single freaking time.
And I misremember where it is in the attic. So this time I thought it was in this previous shot of her looking down before we get that point of view shot that you love. Mm-hmm. I thought it was there. I thought it was right off the top. And it's not. It always gets me. Always.
Now, also, I never thought about this, Kynan. That's a practical effect. Ellen Burstyn could have come away from this scene sans eyebrows if something went wrong, which, again, Friedkin's track record. I'm surprised this isn't one of the famous injury scenes.
Right.
You know?
That's a really good point I hadn't thought about. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you notice, folks, that fire does not shoot straight up into the air. No, it shoots at her. It shoots at Ellen Burstyn's face. Flames on the side of her face. And Had to throw that in there. And she moves it away at the last second. And at first I thought it was, I seriously thought it was someone like just like off stage with like a gas canister, just blowing gas at Ellen Burstyn because of the direction of the flames. But apparently there's like a mechanism inside the candle itself.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one is safer. This one looks really good.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, for this candle to have a second, I guess, acetane or butane or whatever. It has a second feed, and independent of the wick of the candle. So it's like a real candle, I believe. I mean, that's what it looks like. And then next to it is a gas canister of some kind.
Yeah. Jesus. And probably not triggered by Ellen Burstyn herself, because otherwise then you wouldn't get that like surprise. Right?
That's the thing. Oh, can you just trust them to act?
Yeah.
But no, I doubt it. It doesn't look like she does anything to trigger it. She doesn't press the, we can look at this frame by frame. She doesn't press anything there. So it'd have to be in her other hand or something. And I don't think that's what's going on.
Yeah. So, Now, Kynan, I have questions. This is the title of our freaking minute here. Earlier, we had that awesome discussion about unreliable narrators and how maybe what we're seeing here is not what is actually objectively happening, but only in the character's mind. Something crazy just happened in this minute. Do you think it really happened, or was that in Chris's mind?
That hadn't occurred to me before, but you're saying because she walks away. If
that fire actually did happen, right. I have questions about the rest of this scene. Okay?
Yeah, because then they have she and Carl have a pretty normal conversation afterwards.
Right. So, like, the way I saw it, like the way that I see this, Chris gets startled by this huge flame, and then she gets startled by Carl, who is just suddenly there, and she completely forgets that her candle just tried to kill her. And it plays out like the classic trope of like, the scare that's not a scare, like, oh, what was that? Oh, it's only the cat, right? But in this case, it's like, oh no, my candle's gone crazy. Oh, it's only my butler? What? Like Carl, you know what I said about candles. Come on, this is like the fifth time. Like it's almost like, oh, it's only Carl. No, Carl is another thing.
So I guess those are the two options: is that it's not in Chris's mind, or it doesn't really happen. It's really in Chris's mind that she was so scared by Carl that she imagines this thing. I don't know if we have any indication really of that happening to Chris the same way that the Father Merrin one, there's several indications of that.
Right.
So it wouldn't just be one thing. So then if that's not the case, then the other explanation would be that she's so scared of Carl, she assumes that Carl scaring her has made her mishandle this candle in some way.
Maybe but it happens before, like Carl is the second thing that happened. And I know, like we're joking. I know it's not Carl who caused it, right? It's not Carl. But then why isn't Carl like, Madam, you see there are no, holy shit, what the fuck was that? Like why isn't he freaking out? Or okay, maybe he didn't see. Maybe he popped up just as it finished going crazy. So why isn't Chris like, holy shit, Carl, this thing just happened? Or at the very least, Carl, I think we have a gas leak up here. Like the rats aren't the problem anymore. But it's like the reveal of Carl cancels out the candle thing. I don't know. Am I dumb or like what?
I don't think so. I think, of course, we don't, in the emotional logic of the movie, we don't ask ourselves those questions as we're watching it. We're asking ourselves these questions as we're watching the movie as psychopaths do. Right. I'm sorry. And there are probably people who like watching movies. I know there are people who like watching that movie, but that's not the way they're designed. So it's not that you're a psychopath. It's just that you're using.
We're saying we're psychopaths,
right? But you're using the film in a way that it was not intended to be used. By watching it, looking at it, and looking for continuity mistakes and logic errors and all those things. That's not how they were made to be watched.
Right. But like we move on so quickly that us, the audience, is kind of left like, wait, what just happened? Did I is something wrong? Is something not wrong? Like, was that?
Well, I think as we watch it as the audience, we go, oh, thank goodness she's not going to die here. It's Carl, and then we forget any of the other questions we're asking because we're more concerned about the life and death stakes than the logic mistakes.
Yeah. Captain Howdy won't kill Ellen Burstyn while Carl is there.
I think Captain Howdy is afraid of Carl, as everyone else is.
Interesting. Oh, I didn't even think about it. Ooh, okay.
Wouldn't
put
you
that
be?
in the back of my mind. I mean, geez, Carl. Oof. Yeah, he is quite an imposing figure. Yes. And that's kind of part of his character.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's all we got. We got as much as we could get out of this minute, Kynan. We talked about practical effects. We talked about Uncanny Valley. We talked about Muppets.
Yeah, don't get us too sidetracked on Muppets all the time, though.
I know, right? Oscars and Ellen. We even talked about Ellen DeGeneres in this thing. I don't know if I'm going to say the power of Ellen DeGeneres. I don't know. Current events. Past events. Recent events. I don't know. Whatever. All right. So, Kynan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Gollum compels you.
What status, precious? The power of fish compels you.
No, wait, would Gollum be Reagan or would Gollum be one of the priests? Or would Gollum be both of the priests?
Both of the priests.
You don't have any Oscars. Nobody likes you.